All right. Looks like we're live, Michael Kelleher. We're live with Real Fridays, and you're no stranger to the podcast. I'm really happy to have you back on, and it was good to spend some time with you this week at the NBA Secondary Conference.
Yeah, appreciate it. Happy to be here. The secondary conference was certainly active, and got to run into you quite a few times. So I enjoyed it. It was hot.
Now, obviously, Mark Trachtenberg and Silk Title brought a bunch of us to the Knicks game, which was amazing, by the way. You didn't show up. Were you there? Did you come after? Were you there? Oh, you were there. No, you weren't there. It was me, Brock. No,
Yeah,
you were there. You were there. What am I talking about? You were there. You were sitting right there. Because I think you came late because there was a period of time when Mark was like, "Where's Michael?" And then Miami Mike showed up. That's why I got confused. Like Michael Kelleher that I know did not show up, but Miami Mike did show up. So I totally got confused.
yeah. It's very rare you see me dress that fly, right? But no, that was a unbelievable experience. Mark and the team has been putting on quite a few of those lately, but I actually was able to get there earlier than I was able to get to most Celtics games when I had season tickets. I had never been in the Madison Square Garden before, and I see now why it's so loud and rowdy. The ceiling's so much lower. It's almost like being in a theater. And then they do a lot of different entertainment throughout the game. And good thing, some people I think might have left, but that was a game where you had all the reason to leave in the fourth quarter, and they just willed themselves. What was it, a 44-11 run at the end?
Yeah, Genevieve and I almost left about 5 minutes left to go, in the game, and I think we were down by 12 or 14 points. The Knicks were, and it's one of those nights where everyone was a Knicks fan, that night, right? Even though I've never been a Knicks fan, but that night I was game one, and look, I will say that Mark does an exceptional job. He spends high dollar amounts of money on these type of experiences, but you really do create kind of a relationship with partners and with Mark, or and you create experiences where you really want to get to know more about a leader when they invest time with you in that way. And you introduced me to Mark, so it was one of those things where the deeper I got to know Mark and appreciated Mark was, I became kind of a raving fan and was able to really champion that internally at NFM, and to a point where now we've rolled out, or beginning to roll out, So Title, right? So thank you to you, and thank you to Mark. But that wouldn't have happened if it weren't for the experiences that Mark created.
Yeah, the more I get to be around him, the more you appreciate what a marketing genius he is. And there is a method around building relationships first. He always talks about how our industry should have more fun with each other and work together. And I think sometimes you need that experience to bring down the guard. And, a great example is I've been following Greg from Tomo for years when he spoke on Housing Wire as a fintech former, person doing the fintech game. How could you not look up to what he was as a fintech leader over at Zillow, and now what he's doing in mortgage? And I said it right to him. He's very difficult. I've messaged him like many leaders in mortgage, a lot of times on LinkedIn, haven't really heard back. And then you get to see him there, and he gets to learn who you are there. And he said at the end, if you ever need anything, shoot me an email, reach out. And so I've noticed that many times in the environments Mark creates, where people have better relationships for the experience. And it's rare. I mean, when you look at the alternative, there were events I went to where I ran into a lot of people, and I don't think that same outcome will happen. I could message them now and they might not return, an email because they met 55 other people at that event.
Yeah.
And then we were
Yeah.
off to the next event, right? So it is a much better way to build relationships.
Well, I tell you, to me, it's a really a business lesson because look, there are companies that don't have the cash to be able to invest in opportunities like that. And then there's companies who have the money in whether it's ego, control, just a um, lack of a sales growth kind of mentality where they want to grow, but they don't want to do the things necessary to grow, but they have the cash to do it. So it's a function of priorities, a function of never having done it, a function of ego, and they just simply don't do it, right? And most don't do what Mark is doing. Like he's literally putting his money where his mouth is. And this isn't some infomercial for Silk, but I think it's an infomercial for invested good leadership where you're investing in the growth of your organization, and then you're becoming closer with industry experts and colleagues like you and me and others that get to know the brand and get to know the people behind it better, so we can actually work with him ourselves and then be able to be a good referral source to others who might be curious about him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you're getting at. It's going against the grain. Our industry has a habit of feeling they have to spend that type of money on an open bar event, right? But in that way, you have, say, 1,100 people go through your event throughout the course of the night. That approach is a little bit diluted these days, right? I mean, if you looked at the Excel sheet on Monday night, how many events were there?
Yeah. I mean, there was a
A
lot
lot.
of events. Yeah. I mean, every night there was maybe 2 or 3 the first night, probably 8 or 9 or 10 the second night, and a couple, several events, the third night. So yeah.
So I think you have this FOMO that you're missing out on who could possibly be there if you have a smaller, intimate experience. But sometimes the bang for the buck isn't there. If people are jumping from events to events, they might not associate the experience they should for the investment you made because
Yeah.
they were already having to leave by the time they came. Especially
Yeah.
in New York, you're going down to this street, then down to that street. I'm not knocking the events, love them. I think they provide a great opportunity for people in the industry to network and grow. Without events, I wouldn't have gotten, access and worked up slowly. But there's something to be said when you reach a certain level. I think more vendors should focus on experiences and try and find ways to reward people that are genuinely care about this industry, share same goals and visions, and give them opportunities to enjoy an experience together so that after the experience, they're closer, they're communicating better, they can grow together, we can all grow together. That's the feeling I get around experiences versus events.
Yeah.
Now, everybody don't stop doing events, but I think there's room for some diversity in how we operate in general, which is
Yeah.
what Feel Friday talks about, I think, in everything. And when we used to be a little bit more over at the Mic'd Up show, less lender guests, more current events, it's pretty easy to say, if we keep doing what we've always done, we're going to get where we've always gotten. And that's not where I think a lot of people want to be today.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think I think the point in a changing landscape is if you keep doing the things where what we've always done, we won't achieve where the kind of results that they've achieved in the past because the market's changed. Like AI has changed everything, right? Um, I mean, I'm there's one company that was a several billion-dollar servicer. Looking at an acquisition. I was looking through their documentation, and they were forecasting in their business docs as a servicer and as a retail platform percentages of increased profitability, 15, 18%, 20% a year of increased profitability in growth, and really holding tight their overhead, expecting their use of AI to cover more and more work, more of the workload, right? And those are sort of speculative assumptions, but I think it kind of goes to show you the spirit of what we're expecting from AI, especially as we grow. We won't necessarily shrink our head count in as much as we won't just add any more people as we grow, or we'll add fewer people as we grow. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'd like to see more lenders understand AI is changing as fast as it's changing, and it's changing faster than we all want it to change. I'll give you an example. By the way, I am always, when I'm advising lenders, to say slow down.
I think we lost Mike. I think what he was saying was when he advises lenders to kind of slow down to go fast. I think that's one of the things that that's one of the things that they can do. In fact, I think I'm going to try to add Michael back. I just added you back.
I started to say slow down. The AI world heard me and disconnected me. But I was saying, I saw really, like, if you're a lender and you're not on X, I feel you're doing yourself a disservice. You don't need to post on X, but you should at least be checking it out. It reveals a lot more than it seems to be ahead a little bit of where the mainstream articles are. But Google is going to have, I think this is very interesting. So Google is going to be releasing to 3 local zip code type services. I think it's like auto body, and let's call it roofing, where the consumer now, when they search it, they'll click a button, and AI voice is going to call and interview 5 or 6 competitors in the area, and go back to the consumer and give a whole write-up on its recommendation using AI and what the services are, who the person to talk to is. And the natural progression, reading the comments out of this, is how fast, and we know this from our world, are the accountants, the auto body shops going to be sold by a vendor, some AI voice to answer the AI voice. And then you really just have MCP to MCP talking. And the more I was reading it, I was like, you know, that's probably going to be the point of entry for a lot of mortgage business with warm handoffs. But it's against everything you've been taught sales wise, because it's going to ask, what's your rate? And you're told, my rate can be anything you want it to be. And then you use that as a segue into talking to them points and terms and starting to consult. But if that AI bot doesn't, you know, have emotions, it just wants the rate. And if it just disconnects you, that is the equivalent of your Google search result. It's not saying you're never going to get the deal, but that person on the other end is just doing a Google search, except the new results are not going to be a page. It's going to be AI going out in results. And that's coming, I think, in the next week and a half to 2 services in America that are part of like Own Your Zip Code. And then the whole suite, I think, is rolling out in the next 4 months. That is that to me
is that where you, is that what's the application for mortgage? What's the application for, like, if a consumer searches, I'm looking to get a mortgage, and then somehow there's give me the application for mortgage, either for lenders or for consumers.
I think it'll just replace, I don't know the stats at your company, but who searches who is a loan officer in my area is where that will replace. So rather than showing the 5 closest loan officers, it'll ask what you're looking for, and then it will go make the calls to 5 people that have done everything right. So your my Google business still matters.
Like a custom, like, so they'll almost pre-qualify loan officers for me as the consumer looking for a mortgage loan officer. Of I'm looking for a VA loan. I'm a veteran, and so they'll maybe contact the top VA loan officers in the area. It'll be interesting to see how they actually sort that out, because everyone's going to say, like, yeah, let me talk to the consumer. I'd love to talk to them. Same
way today. There'll be organic, meaning if you mailed back your Google My Business by zip code, I'm sure every branch in NFM does it. If not, each branch should have its own DBA so that you're doing that. And then it will go paid ads. So you will be paid to be on there. The part that everybody's going to get frustrated with is it's going to be designed by a Google advertisement engineer. not
Yeah.
anybody with mortgage experience or anybody with painting experience when it reaches out to painters. But that would be what it's going to, just like when you say, who is a painter in Swampscott? It's now going to say how many square feet, what type, and then it's going to make calls. Google's going to determine what's valuable to you. And it's going to come back and say, if they use Benjamin Moore, it's going to be this. If they use that, it's going to be that. Because Google then wants you to keep Googling, like what's Benjamin Moore.
Well, and I think to the point though, I think that AI it improves with data, right? So the more data, the more interaction, the more it'll learn either questions to ask or based on the responses from consumers. I think the results are going to get more and more acute, like it more acutely relevant to the consumer. I mean, that's
their big piece was one. It's definitely going to end up being like, so in NFM's definitely, this large company built to scale. You'll probably be one of the first to market to have some solution that answers those calls. So then you can get it back to the way it was, where the loan officer is actually talking to somebody. But in the meantime, it was saying 70% of these auto body mechanic people that are picking up the phone, as soon as they hear Google, they hang up because Google usually sells them stuff. So they have to now train themselves to make sure that they're at least answering and coaching it to come up in the results. And
yeah, that'll just be in the script though. That hi Mike, the automotive mechanic. This is Google calling on behalf of a consumer looking for transmission repair or body repair. Do you do that? And Mike, the mechanic's going to say, yeah, we do that. Or no, but I'd recommend going to Brock Cassidy's, auto body shop down the road. Oh, okay, thank you. Hang up the phone. And then so it's going to learn within that zip code of those either references or just whatever else is registered there. I have this love-hate relationship with the concept of owning your zip code, but I do love the fact that I do think you're onto something. Like I really do genuinely think that, because ultimately it's about owning all the zip codes. And so how do you really, almost like a sniper, really have a way of penetrating each and every zip code that you target if you are a lender? And because that's the name of the game, right? Especially in a rising rate environment. You might have a loan officer in Knoxville, Tennessee, who's like, well, gosh, it's becoming more competitive, or I'm not able to do the loan because the market isn't handing me loans. Yeah. Therefore, how do I own my zip code, regardless of the rate environment?
Yeah, I think that's sort of what I've been hinting at. It's not just winning the zip code. It's the mentality of the IMB on how we're going to win this, like actually writing down the plan like we're attacking a battlefield. The loan officer should be in charge of the zip code. The branch manager should be assigned zip codes. It should be okay. You don't need to have a zip code. You're not going to win. You don't need the branch manager focusing on 01970 if there's no loan officers there. Triple down on 01907 and really win it. Don't say you're going to win it and start putting some zip codes on the board. I'll give you a great story. So I went and I spoke at an IMB who was releasing one of my clients' softwares. And so I got to speak on, it came in as own your zip code, but I focused entirely on this beautiful 20-minute presentation I wrote on podcasting, everything I've learned from the 4 years of podcasting. You could probably speak a lot on podcasting as well. And the part that, less than 1% do more than 5 episodes. And then 90% of those quit by 21 episodes. So just globally, if you make it to 22, which you did, congratulations, you're in the top 1%. Think about that in the zip code. You're probably in the 0.01%. So I just said, raise your hand in front of 70 loan officers. Raise your hand if you have an active podcast that is at least on the 5th episode and you're wondering if you're going to make it to your 6th.
Yeah.
None raised their hands. Not one loan officer had a podcast. That's where I had this mind opening. And I came in
so smart,
wanting to pitch this podcast in a box that I've been selling because I think I have the lowest market to go do it. I came out realizing I could do a lot more and in theory make a lot. I was doing that almost as a gift. I could make more money, just $50 a month, being the accountability coach for these loan loan officers that
Yeah.
want to try and want to spend the money themselves because they think they can outdo it that way,
Look,
and
it's a real market. Look, I think you're 100% right, because if you're a loan officer in Swampscott, Massachusetts, and you literally are all things Swampscott, and you're all things the barber shops, the restaurants, the automotive dealers, and then individual consumers, the veterans, every constituent in that. If you're in this process of interviewing them for, whether you're going to them and it's a remote kind of show or it's more of a sit down show like it is here, or some hybrid of the two. Look, I think there's very few people that are as good at these podcasts as you are in our industry. And plus you've learned a lot. You've made all the mistakes that you're trying to help people avoid having to make themselves, because that's just time and money that ends up getting wasted. So I 100% agree with you. There's sales coaches as to how to get realtor leads and so on and so forth. I don't know of anyone who's focusing on how to set up your own podcasting kind of coaching, and then providing a platform that's plug and play, like a platform like yours, being able to share that. It gives people the opportunity to almost white label your platform for others. I know we have about maybe 60 seconds left because
real quick, here are the 3 takeaways from that. One is the loan officers then told me they went out and gave the idea to people in their community, a realtor, their aunt, and they said many of them told them they would be great at it. And so I could just hear that confidence coming back. And that 100%. Confidence doesn't just build as a podcaster, it builds as, geez, I'm more popular in this zip code than I thought, and it's going to make them do better behaviors. 2, I teach, it's about the guests being seen, even like prepping with the guests and making sure you're in the most popular Starbucks. And then number 3 is your first year, you don't focus on referral partners, focus on people that are popular and considered really nice people in the zip code. And year 2, the rest will take care of itself.
Well, I know we both have a 2 o'clock, so why don't we wrap? But I appreciate you being on this short, abbreviated episode of Real Fridays, and I think we just started on a really good topic, so we'll have to pick this up another time. So I appreciate you, my friend. Thanks again, Michael Keller. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Rick.